Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Mr. Brian James O'Connell, sniffling.
Yeah.
He's back on the podcast, and I just have to show you. Let's see how many. You were the first guest,
I was.
and 14 podcasts later, here you are.
I'm back, baby.
How does it feel
I
to be back?
It feels great. It feels great to be doing the podcast too, Electric Boogaloo. I'm for
Woohoo.
it. Back in the Habit. The Lost World. Other unfortunate sequels.
Oh, the sequel. That's the title.
The
BOC, the sequeling,
sequeling.
the podcasting.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, number one.
Thank you. Hopefully this will be more Wrath of Khan and not Search for Spock.
Okay. I hope so, too.
Yeah, same.
We'll see what the audience says. Okay, so let's start kind of with this. You had a big weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, can you talk about PacCon? How was your Saturday night All-Star?
It was good. I love this was PacCon 4. Yeah, this is our big annual celebration of us going to 7 days a week. I did the 6 o'clock teacher all-star jam where I try and get teachers or veteran representatives from every theater from around town, everything from Comedy Sports to Impro, Second City, UCB. There's still some iOS of us left. West Side Comedy Theater, Improv Space in Westwood. I try and get everybody.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of fun. I got to play with Rebecca Sohn for the first time. I got to meet Guy Stevenson from the Groundlings 30 seconds before I went on stage with him, which was
Wow.
great. It was just it's just a lot of fun. It's something that me and Nick Armstrong, who do Camp Improv Utopia together, and he's also the AD over at West Side, which is
cool.
a high tide raises all ships. We need to be in collaboration with each other, not competition. There are 42 seats in the PAC Theater. There are 10 million people that live in Los Angeles County. We should not be competing for audiences because we never will have to if we all work together and make this.
Like the percentages are just not, they
Yeah.
don't add up.
Yeah, just trying to make it if you just make it an improv town, like in Chicago, going to see a show, dinner and a show is just part of the culture.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's been, first dates where you talk about people going to see a Second City main stage review and having dinner there and all that. And
Really?
getting to
That's
know
a
each
pretty
other.
common.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing.
How much money is that? Would you say?
How much
Just
money
give or
is
take?
for the ticket or people getting paid?
Just like no. I mean, for a first date. That
Oh.
sounds great. I'm just like, how, what's the...
Tickets are probably like 25, 30, times two. And then it depends on whether you want to, eat across the street. I forget the name of the restaurant now that I did it. I almost said Salt and Pepper, but that was next to the old IO in Wrigleyville. And then if you eat dinner there, it's kind of all inclusive. You can probably get out of there under $100.
Whew, okay.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at right now.
That's all right. Well, there's plenty of places that you can go to LA and do a dinner and a show, and you're like, all right. But we have we have a pay what you can theater and a fucking badass taco truck around the corner, and
Yeah.
also Jesse Boy, the wonderful Korean.
I have not tried that yet. It's good.
They sponsored us this year. Unfortunately, I couldn't have any of it because I'm on a very restrictive diet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How long have you been...
About 2, maybe 3 weeks. My bad cholesterol is way too high. My good cholesterol is way too low. My doctor yelled at me, so now I have to. Thankfully, I can cook. I've been cooking for 25 years, so I'm like, all right, I can do this, but it won't
So what
be
is...
fun.
How do you correct that?
No red meat of any kind. No pork. No bacon. No dairy. No butter. Obviously, because no dairy. Very little oil if you cook anything. I do a lot of baking now. I do a lot of poaching, so it's chicken and then like tuna and salmon, tilapia every once in a while. And I have a digital scale now, and I weigh everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a certain amount of daily intake that you're trying to hit?
Yeah, I've
If you care to share, I don't know.
sure. Yeah, I don't mind.
This is what everyone wants to listen to.
Of course, on this movie podcast. No, like anything else, like I have a bunch of friends who are personal trainers, and a couple of them reached out to me. I'm like, I know caloric intake. That's the secret. All the different diets and stuff like that. It's just all it comes down to is, are you burning off more calories than you take in, and then what are the calories that you're taking in? Because you can have a 1,500 calorie a day diet but it can be all garbage,
Yeah.
right? You can't have one McDonald's combo and nothing else for the rest of the day, because then you have to focus on nutrition as well. So it's a lot of vegetables, either roasted or raw, which I find all those delicious.
Oh, good.
So it's good.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, it was weird too, because it just one last thing. He was just like, "Do you do a lot of fast food? Do you eat out a lot?" I'm like, "No, I actually cook for myself." He's like, "Oh, it doesn't look like it." And I was just like,
oh wow,
geez.
you've been just cooking a lot of everything that you said not to.
Yeah, I think where I got in trouble. It's a family thing as well, because my parents have high cholesterol and their parents had high cholesterol. But also, I think for like the last year, I started doing a quote unquote self care that ended up being self not care, where I would make a good breakfast for myself in the morning, but I was doing 2 eggs and bacon and all that kind of stuff, and eating like too much. Like brown rice is better than white rice, but I was having too much of it. It's portion control as well. Are you guys awake still?
I'm so sorry.
Listening to this?
I'm gonna let it go where it goes.
No, yeah, you can cut it all out, man. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry. I have a few places that I want to go with. Is
Sure.
What you're writing now, if you care to talk about that.
Sure, I can do that.
And your most recent project that you had announced, the animated series.
Held In, that I made.
So whichever one you'd like to talk about.
Sure, we'll talk about Held In first.
Okay.
Held In is an animated series that we did with DrinkTV.com. Red Tail Media is the producers, the guys that run that, and the executives, and also with Shout Factory, and that is quarter-hour episodes. The first season is 6 episodes, and each one has about 90 seconds of original animation, sort of telling the narrative story. And then we repurposed public domain cartoons from the 1900s, 10s, 20s, and up to about the 40s, 50s that were all in the public domain. And we re-edited them and rewrote them and revoiced them, redubbed them with all the dialogue. Yeah. We cut out all the racism first, and there is a lot of it. Oh boy, there's a lot of racism in old cartoons.
Yeah.
And then I would say like the average sketch length is about 20 seconds. It's really fast. It's very Robot Chicken sort of rhythm. Also Frisky Dingo, which I'm a huge fan of. And then the workflow was because Dr. God, that's me, Neil Gargiulo, David Park, Sean Cowgan, Justin Ware. We were the writers, directors, producers, and we did a ton of the voices. We had some guests. We had Brett Davern come in, Derek Mears, who plays Swamp Thing now in the DC series, Mo Collins, who's an old friend of ours from Fear the Walking Dead, Zabeth Russell, who's an old family friend, and Tim Jennings, who's an old Dr. God family friend. Who else am I? Oh, I'm blanking. I can't remember. Oh, a lot of people. She'll kill me later. And the workflow was like tough. It was a lot of like being in the VO booth and taking turns directing the sketches. Basically, it was the kind of like a sketch team. It's like if you wrote the sketch, you direct it, you cast it, you kind of get it up, and then we all sort of throw our stink on it. I wrote 130 sketches in 2 days for that series.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was when you
and a lot of that I give a hat tip to Eric Moneypenny, because I took his level 1 sketch program here at the PAC as well. And I've been doing sketch for a long time, but just being able to do that and then have this job come along, being sharp again and getting back into the habit of writing that, I doubt I could have done that type of workflow without taking Moneypenny's class. So
had you taken it recently, or are you saying
within like the year?
Oh wow,
like
you went back and
like
you
with a year or two. Yeah, I took it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, those guys, him and Sam, are geniuses when it comes to sketch comedy, and I like getting better at stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm forever a student. I don't mind it at all.
No, that's yeah. So when you mean you guys were writing sketches, does that mean you're going through the cartoons first and then you're generating what the ideas would be?
Yeah.
Or the jokes from there? So
yeah, the way that Dr. God works is we are very good at sort of like dividing and conquering, and like, okay, who's doing what? Who's doing this? Neil Gargiulo was sort of like the overall producer, showrunner, even though we were all executive producers. He really sort of led the charge on it. And what we would do is that we would have access to all the cartoons from Shout Factory, because they're the ones that had the licensing deal with the guy that had the high definition remasters of all these cartoons. So we would watch those cartoons on that guy's YouTube channel at the lower res stuff. Go through, and anytime you saw a moment for a joke or a story or something like that, you write it up, and then we would bring them all together in one room. We would meet over at Neil's place, and then we would just take turns. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was like, all right, Neil's gonna go first, then Dave, then Justin, then Sean, then me. Then just go, sort of round robin like that. Sometimes one or two of us would have a different take on the same material, and then because we've been working together for over a decade now, so we have a very good working relationship. And it's pretty easy. If all of us laugh in the room, that's going into the hell yeah pile. And then we're also very good about being giving. I'm like, oh no, you know what? Dave's got a much funnier take on that material. I'm taking my sketch off the table. And so once we get all those together that are definitely, we want to use these. These are on the fence, not so sure about. And then we just write them all out on note cards. It's the name of the sketch and how long it is, because since you only have 11 minutes and about 90 seconds of that is original animation, so everything else has to be that. You have to have some all right, we have too many musical bits in this one, and we just put it up on a cork board and go all right, this goes in this episode. Each episode is themed because there's a different narrative going on. It's all right, this one is about Fleek becomes is the alien. He becomes a woman, so we should make sure that we have sort of things the sketches that sort of fit that theme generally. Make sure they're in that episode.
So was the 90 seconds was the 90 seconds determined before you started selecting the animation?
Yeah, we wrote those scripts ahead of time.
Okay.
And again, kind of divide and conquer. The one, since there's 5 characters, there's basically the idea of Held In is that every major apocalypse happens at the exact same time, and everyone on the planet Earth is dead except for this one 12-year-old boy by the name of Andrew. And then Neil does a voice for that. So Neil kind of took the lead on writing the pilot, which is sort of Andrew's story, and then introducing these other characters, which is the pilot is the pilot, and then
the pilot's something separate. That's just Andrew's story.
No, I take that back now, because that's sort of introducing everybody.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we have a larger arc going over the whole season. So there was one episode about I play Giantic, which is a giant. Then there's Kenneth, the fifth horseman of the apocalypse. Fleek, who's an alien, and then Betsy, which is a android / half human, half robot sort of thing. And so each one of us plays one of those characters. So then we made a point to we all worked on the pilot together, and then I sort of took the lead on Giantic's story episode, and then me and Sean worked together on the one for Fleek because he plays Fleek, and then Justin did the one for Betsy, and and so on and so forth. And then the 6th episode is sort of like a wrap up of the entire, so that we can do the series finale, the season finale, and so there's a cliffhanger there for season 2, which hopefully, knock on wood, they'll pay us to do.
Cool.
Yeah. So once those stories are set, and then again, it's just about 90 seconds. Because original animation is very expensive to get done.
I mean, it looks great. It's
Matt
cool
Keel
art design. Oh my gosh.
Matt Keel is incredible.
I'll make sure to put a link to the trailer in there, and
thank you very much.
Watch it. I was watching it. I watched it a couple times. I was like,
oh, thank you, man.
This
I
thing
appreciate
is
that.
Epic.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. We're pretty happy with it. Hopefully, they'll let us do more, which is the secret to all television. Do they like it enough? And Drink TV is a very new network, so we're all still trying to figure out what the right metrics are, what it makes sense for them, because it's a subscription based, but it's binge worthy. You can pay your $2.99 for a month, watch all 6 episodes, and then you can cancel your subscription.
What? It
will not hurt my feelings.
They
have a lot of other great stuff on there too. It's $20 for a year.
Well, there's 2 things of that. I'm going back and I'm canceling all of my.
I know
all of my stuff right now.
So many subscripps now. I know.
Yeah, you need to have everything. But I'm like, well, I wanted to watch your movie, and I bought it on YouTube for $3.99.
Awesome.
Angry White Man.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I hope Brian gets a notification or something. Does he see any of this?
That goes to Indican, and that goes to my buddy Brian Mandel and Bob Hardison, who produced it. So
I was just like,
they'll tell me.
I was like, God, I hope some percentage of this.
Oh no, Indican's been great to us. So for as far as Angry White Man, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at with Held In now. It's been out for a couple months, and yeah, we're very worried, like everyone is, because you've got HBO Max, you got Disney Plus coming out. The concern now is, are people going to have subscription? What's the word I'm looking for? Fatigue. We're just like, at a certain point, this is a lot of the reason why a lot of us left cable in the first place.
I know.
We didn't want to pay $125 a month to watch all the stuff. Oh, Netflix has all the stuff? Cool, I'll cut my cord. Wait a minute.
But then all of a sudden,
yeah,
it's rising.
CBS and everything. Like, and I guess you kind of have to just sort of pick your battles. Like, we just got rid of our HBO subscription because we're like, all right, when
Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah, and then when these next two shows that we like come back for the next season, we'll sign up for it again.
Wow, okay.
Kind of do it that way. CBS All Access, I might have to get because the Twilight Zone, of course, because Heather works on that. I was like, I'm gonna have to get that. And then the new Picard series is coming. I'm like, God damn it, now I have
Isn't
to.
it like, yeah,
It looks so good. I'm so excited. They've been reading my diary.
You got everything you wanted.
I got it. Oh, I gotta do it. Yeah.
Well, so your collaboration with Dr. God goes back a decade.
Yeah, I'm the newest member of Dr. God, and the second O'Connell. There was an Eileen O'Connell, not the Eileen O'Connell that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Not Eileen Mary O'Connell. At one point in LA, there were 3 women comedians all working in the same sort of area, and they were all Eileen O'Connell. Yeah, so I joined them. There used to be 8, then we got down to, and a couple of people left, and I joined, and then we were down to 6, and then Brendan McLaughlin moved back to San Francisco, and we've been the 5 ever since. So yeah, so over a decade. For me, at least, the rest of the 4 have been working together longer than that.
Wow. So, and you guys all have producer credit and like director credit for this
for
series
Held
this
In?
one.
Yeah, for Held In, all 5 of us are executive producers, writers, and directors. That is, those are, if you go to IMDb, that is our credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be a director now? I mean, I guess it's different when you're directing your own piece than when you're directing something that you're collaborating on. But like, I find myself wondering what even a director means and what they do. Like,
yeah, because so much of it depends on what the project is. Like something like this, which is like an animated series. And again, it's the kind of thing of like, you wrote it, you should sit in the director's chair for this. But also, if I wrote it and I'm in it, who's ever in the room, where I'd be like, Neil, I think you have a good handle on what I'm going for here. Do you mind just kind of walking me through this and directing it, so I'm not trying to have to wear 2 hats at the same time? But then when it comes to like, when we did our pilot for TBS, me and Matt Lillard co-directed that because there was one big section that was sort of like a short film. It was like a 7 to 8 minute short film, and Matt directed all of that. And then I was doing sort of like the little pieces around it, like this little 20-second trailer or this like little 2-minute thing. We had I won't even go into it, but we had like a crazy sort of terminology of like parrots, sparrows, parakeets. And then
for roles you're saying?
No, for like what kind of, for this section, is this a sparrow idea, like a real quick one, or is this like a parakeet which needs like 2 or 3 minutes to tell this story? No, dude, it's definitely a parrot. Yeah, we really confused the shit out of our.
I'm so confused, but I think I know. It's just how you guys are referring to it.
Yeah, and then something like, again, if it's a movie, then definitely one of us would be in the chair, right? Obviously I directed the movie that we did together, and that was my 3rd one. But right now, again, High Tide Raises All Ships. We have a couple different projects. One would definitely be in the director's chair, but there's another one that we're working on that Justin has a really good idea for, and Justin is overdue to direct a film. But eventually I would like, and Neil had an idea that he was working on a company with for a long time, is kind of stasis right now. But eventually the hope is that we would get to a point where Dr. God has 5 feature films or more, and all 5 of us have sat in the director's chair at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, no one knows you better. Like we all refer to each other as brothers. So it's like, like if I'm more experienced at this point, that just means I'm more experienced because I got an opportunity early on. If Justin's sitting in the director's chair, I'm not going to try and sit on his shoulder. But if he comes to a side and says like, I'm thinking like, well, what's your frame? All right, do that then. Okay, great. And then I will just fuck off and go back to being whatever role I was doing, acting wise. We're all there to help each other out. So that's the kind of thing. As far as the larger sense of like, what is directing now?
Yeah, like
I don't know, man. Especially in television, and especially on streaming television, because that's always been a producer and writer's.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
Director, you're still a director for hire when it comes to that kind of stuff. I just binge watched The Boys on Amazon, and I thought it was fantastic. But it's there's probably a different director for every episode. Yeah, but it all has a similar look and vibe and feel and tone. I'm like, that's the showrunner, that's the writer, that's the executive producers. That's Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Yeah.
So what are I mean, TV directors, like, do you have a preference for how you'd like to work? Like do you consider yourself I'm mainly I have the capacity mainly to do the feature film, or
well, I feel like I can do all of it. And I feel, again, a lot of this comes from the sketch and improv background, where it's a collaborative art form. We're all trying to do the same thing, get on together. So, but again, it depends on the scenario and what the project is. I mean, if you go in and direct an episode of Law and Order SVU, they don't need you as a director to like show out or be diva or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's a job. Your job is to come in, be familiar with the show's tone, be familiar with the actors. I'm not going to tell Richard Belzer how to play Munch at this point. Like, I don't know if Munch would do that. Like, that's an easy way to get fired as a TV director. But then you take someone like Payman Benz, who did, did a lot of the, the Midnight Show stuff, but like did a lot of Key and Peele. And then that's how, and all that stuff looks so good. That's why a good portion of Key and Peele works so well, is that they look like miniature movies. Everything has a unique and distinct style. I think he brings a lot to that table there. But then also too, you take something like, I don't know, Twilight Zone, anything that's like an anthology series, I'm sure they match the director to the type of script that they're doing, like Black Mirror. Like you wouldn't hire the same guy to do their Star Trek satire that they did. What's the name of the episode is escaping me. Versus Bandersnatch. You want somebody that has experience in that sort of VR world and all that. But when it comes to directing like features, like I don't need anybody to handhold me when it comes to directing like an independent movie.
Do you think you have, like you said, Payman's example, like what he brought to it? Do you consider like yourself to have a certain stylistic point or understanding of the concept, or that separates you from than any other director to come in and work on stuff?
That is a very, very good question. That is a good question. I think, just speaking for me personally, so I went to one of the best film schools in the country, and I got a very, very good education. I'll always be grateful for that. And also, like, I've seen a ton of movies, because at the time, probably still do, our film library is probably, like, I think number one in the country, just for like the amount of films that we had, but also the depth and breadth of films that we had. And I've seen a ton of those. And I just watch movies constantly. Like, I have a 300 VHS tape collection of different things, and I just watch movies over and over and over again. But also, kind of what I bring to it is I'm able to do comedy, and I'm able to do horror, and I'm able to do genre blending a lot nicer. I can do things that are visceral. I'm an actor's director, but I can move the camera when necessary to tell the story. But I'm not in love with camera movement. I don't use actors as chess pieces, so to speak, because I'm also a performer, so I can talk to actors on that. But I think the one thing that I can bring more than anybody else is that no one has my incredibly encyclopedia fucked up brain, where like for example, I pitched something this morning, early on today. I had a telephone pitch, and then last night I sent them just like a 2-page PDF of like, here's kind of like my initial thoughts on that, of like where I would see this going, how we do it, over kind of general, because there's no script yet.
It was just writing, just
it's a property that they have that they're looking to adapt, so that there's no script that I'm working off. I'm just like, here's my take of it, here's my vision, and even that had like 25 hyperlinks, and I'm quoting things like, it's like Hunter S. Thompson if he was in the This Is Sports Center Y2K commercial. It's this, but done in the style of Qbert. It's the let's do a chopped and screwed Houston style, slow down the beat kind of version of the long tracking shot from Gone with the Wind. Nobody puts that together the way that I do.
The crossing of those ideas.
and being able to make it work. And then you take something like, that's why I did a personal project that I did here. Is the WPCK 3000, where it's 3,000 1-second clips counting from the number 1 to the number 3,000 in order. Yeah, so it'd be like, 1 is it takes 2 to make a thing go right. 3, 4, 4, 5, 8, 8. Right? It's just constantly rhythm and all that, because that's kind of how my brain works.
Wow.
Yeah, no one can replicate that. It was me and then 29 other editors. I gave everyone 100 seconds. I was like, go do it.
Oh, go get these numbers.
Yeah, I did 0 through 99. And then a lot of other people from the pack. Ethan Stanilowski did some, C.K. Kimball, Eric Wargo. Those are the 2s that were like, my brain hurts. Brian Rubinow did some.
Jesus.
Yeah. Dane
That's
Bowling.
like what they send off into space.
Yeah.
For people to see.
Honestly. Yeah. So that stuff, but also like that idea of like, Kurosawa said, I'm proving my film school nerd bona fides. Kurosawa said that, Akira Kurosawa said that the director has to be like the field general. You don't have to be an expert in every single thing. You don't have to be an expert in archery or cavalry or artillery, but you do need to be able to know enough about it to be able to speak to your lieutenants and your commanders who do own that, so you can communicate what your vision of the plan of attack is. It's the same thing with cinematography and editing, and like, I can speak all those languages. I can talk to the actor and give them a direction in such a way that they're not self-conscious, and then I can turn to the AD and be like, yes, I know that it would take us 30 extra minutes to flip the whole lighting system, but Jeff the actor hates walking to the desk that way, so I'm figuring it out. And then turn around and look at the UPM and go like, yes, I'm very aware that guy across the street is about to start up his lawnmower because he's pissed off and he wants $50. If give him $50 if he'll turn it off for an hour, and I'll get you out of here in 25 minutes. Like, I can talk to all my different department heads and be able to respect them. Excuse me. Like, the last thing I'll say is the best compliment I've ever gotten as a director was, we were doing Bloodsucking Bastards, and we did a take, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see the boom operator wince. And then I looked at the guy run, the sound mixer, and he's like, kind of running his head back and forth without making a big deal of it. I was like, all right, and cut. That's great. Hey, sound, one more? Would you guys like one more? And they're like, yeah. I was like, cool, great. And looked at the actors. I was like, perfect. Just one more. We're going to do it for safety. Do it exactly like that. They did it even better. And then at the end of the day, they came over and were like, hey, man, we've been doing this for a long time. 15 years for me, 20 years for him. Never once in the history of working has a director ever asked us if the sound department would like another take. And thank you for that, because we missed it. It would have,
something was messed up.
He's like, I banged the boom right during the, during the crucial line. I knew it was no good, and it would have killed me. He's like, I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night knowing that you'd gone to the editing room and wouldn't have had it for my sound. So thank you for that. That's the greatest compliment I've ever gotten as a director. Yeah. Like, never in 20 years has anyone ever asked me, the boom operator, if I'd like one more take, and certainly didn't yell at me about it either. And I was like, hey, man, we're all working this together. Yeah.
Projects have had a lot of bad sound then because of that reason.
Yeah.
A lot of takes they couldn't use.
Yeah. And a lot of times the sound department gets yelled at. Like, if the DP asked for another take because there was a buzz
or out of focus.
Yeah, out of focus. Shit. Maybe the director goes, or maybe he chews out the first AC or the second AC, who's, whoever's pulling the focus puller. You got to put it on that. If the sound department asks for another take, usually they get yelled at like a redheaded stepchild. I'm just like, I can't imagine running a set where people live under that and think you're going to get the best work from anybody. That just doesn't. I don't want to be talked to that way. That doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And in that way, I've been very blessed that by treating my crew and my actors with respect that way, that when it's time to turn around, and I'm like, hey, I know we're right up against it. I'm like, and then they'll run through a brick wall for me because I try and treat them like human beings. Crazy in the film business. God forbid.
Jeez. I want to talk about
Yes.
two other films. Angry White Man.
Angry White Man, yeah, which is a comedy. It's a Southern comedy. It is not. It's not what it sounds like.
And the whole time,
It's not American History
the
X.
whole time I'm watching Scooter,
Scoot McNairy, yeah.
all I see is Miles Roberts.
Oh, really? Yeah, I can see that.
Just the hair, the hairstyle.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like,
Oh, and like, I'm trying to help you. I got that hooker to help you. That's a very Miles Roberts line. Yeah, Scoot's great, man.
it was. I mean, the music in it is so much fun.
Thank you.
And I saw your cameo.
Oh,
there.
thank you. Very few people pick up on that.
The guy singing his heart out. I like that whole sequence when they're all playing for the
For the
for the song,
songwriting
I think.
contest? Yeah.
It's such a fun convention. And was the film always structured that way?
Oh, yeah. Bob wrote a hell of a script.
Okay.
Bob Hardison is the lead. He wrote it. He was the lead, and he was one of the producers along with Brian Mandel, who was also the DP on it. And me and Bob, I was a working musician for like 8 years in North Carolina. Like I wrote hundreds, if not thousands, of songs. I'm lead singer in bands and played rhythm guitar and toured. Mandel was one half of my lighting crew at one time, but all of us lived together. Bob's a great songwriter. I think Bob is actually with either BMI or ASCAP. Like he's a published songwriter. And then Mandel can play really well and has been following the Dead and Fish and everybody else around forever and ever. So when Bob wrote the script, both me and Mandel immediately got it. We're like, yeah, this is what it means to be in the local music scene of a small southern town, just trying to like get anyone to like your stuff. And then with that larger dream of like, I'm going to move to Nashville and I'm going to be a songwriter and I'm going to be that big hit.
See, that's what I was really enjoying about it was that everything felt like a forward momentum was going story wise.
Yeah.
There was,
it's a very classic 3-act structure. There's no bells and whistles, really.
It was so enjoyable, and there was moments of pacing where the character had to decide stuff, and there's like a drug trip sequence.
Yeah.
And, and
a good drug trip sequence where it's like, it's not just like all, wild colors and incense and peppermint. It's like, no, this is what it looks like when a guy's tripping balls.
I love he's driving around the tree and the track and the
yeah. And that crazy ass helmet / whatever the hell it is. I have a picture of me wearing that somewhere on my Facebook. Just stuff like that. And again, that was sort of our experience because we also lived together in college and we like, drop acid and play our guitars and then
so
go
that
outside.
3 was based on the 3 of you guys' friendships together a little bit. Not based, but like maybe you guys could resonate with it.
Yeah, we could definitely resonate with that. Like, I mean, Bob's from a super small town in eastern North Carolina, like right outside of Greenville, North Carolina. I mean, he went to Bob's town is so small. How small is it? Bob went to a school that was kindergarten through 12th grade. He went all the way through from kindergarten, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 12. His dad was the principal of that school his entire life. And they played 8-man football because they didn't have enough people to put 11 men on each side of the field.
That's a little squad.
That's tiny. That's a tiny town. That's a
wow.
Yeah, he spent his summers in junior high and high school doing cotton scouting, that kind of thing. So it's just an agglomeration of like sort of all those people grew up with. Mandel's from a small town in Hickory, North Carolina, in western North Carolina, and I'm from High Point, which is right there in the middle, in the Piedmont, in the hills. So it's all like it's all people that we recognize. But a lot of them, it doesn't hold up as great in 2019 anymore because because read the fucking news. But a lot of times it's sort of a love letter to those people that are like, most of them are decent people. They're just idiots. They're just idiots. Yeah. And now being an idiot isn't an excuse anymore. And some of the folks I've even run into that where it's there's a lot of people from my hometown I don't talk to anymore because it was like, oh, you're not a lovable idiot anymore. You've been given license to come out and say what you really believe, and what you think and believe is horrible. And no, we can't be friends anymore. Oh, you've changed since you've been out there, in La La Land. I'm like, no, dude, I haven't at all. And if you thought this is what I liked, you were just a lot more quiet. You used to have shame back then. These horrible racist thoughts that you were having, you didn't say out loud when you and I were friends in high school and college. Yeah, I'm gonna press pause and delete on our friendship. So going back now and watching Angry White Man, me and Bob went back to our alma mater and showed it, and apparently the big hubbubaloo.
They were triggered.
Dude, I not even triggered, like, genuinely. I mean, there was I have a lot of friends who were there, like, who are grads now and have come out, and I try and help them and, hire them onto gigs and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we thought it was hilarious, but a lot of people in the private Facebook group for our class thought it was the most offensive film they had ever seen. And I was like, really? Because the Black Jehovah's Witness that smokes weed is the only redeemable character. Everyone else is, an idiot and a shithead. That's kind of the point of the... No, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. It doesn't age well from 2011 to now.
It's also an interesting ending choice in the fact of, like, he doesn't write the good song.
No. Yeah. It's not really a spoiler, so that's like, fine.
And I don't remember the character's name, but the love interest, she's like, I love you. Like, that was the hottest thing I've ever seen. Like, he gets rewarded for losing.
For horrific behavior. Yeah, like he breaks a string,
and just loses it.
Yeah, so spoiler alerts, but I guess the movie's been out long enough now.
No, yeah,
watch it anyway because it's super fun.
Go watch
and
it.
It's a great cast. We had Scoot, because Bob and Scoot have been friends for a long time. Scoot did Bob's first movie, Marcus, which is a really great small horror thriller that I highly recommend. And then Matt Berry from England, and Mary Birdsong, who's great, and Steve Agee. Like, we got really lucky with a good comedic cast. They're super funny. That movie is quotable as hell, man.
So Matt Berry's character his name was
Bulldog Hayes.
Bulldog. So what's the vibe that you're going for at his house when they go in?
Oh yeah,
it was
pathetic, is what we were going for.
Okay, because I was just like
because the whole idea is that he's more like bullshit Hayes.
Yeah.
We were sort of making fun of all of those, like, crazy stories that you hear about, like Motley Crue and Led Zeppelin, and then also like Hank Williams Jr. and Waylon Jennings. But you notice in that scene when we go to Bulldog Hayes' house, and there's all that crazy stuff, and there's strippers, and there's people wasted like that. He doesn't have any friends. Like, there's no friends in there. We didn't give it. There's no speaking roles there, really.
Yeah.
There's not like, oh, we've met this new character. He's pathetic, and he's lonely, and he's a loser, and it's mostly because it's based. I don't want to spoil it for anybody to watch it, but because it's all based on a lie, and that's the thing. And it's like, be careful of meeting your heroes. Be careful of, like, oh, if I just have this, then I'll be happy. It's like, no, man. I think Bob is super funny, but also I think Bob is an incredibly underrated actor, comedically and dramatically. Like, you're seeing, like, you have those little moments and pieces where it separates itself from one of those normal times of comedy, is because we treat them like actual real human beings and different emotions. Like, when he gets up and yells in Bulldog's Hayes, he's like, man, did you just shoot your fucking dog?
Yeah.
This is bullshit. We've been here for 24 hours. We haven't done anything like that. Like, you're a fraud because you're too fucked up. Like that, like, that's genuine.
Yeah.
And that's why I shot the way I did. I was like, no, man, we're doing this all in close up. Like, Bob's so good in that moment, just as, like, a dramatic actor. You gotta have a little bit of depth to characters. It just can't be constant balls to the wall. Like, and here's another bit, and here's another set piece.
Do you think that was why his two friends were, like, more buffoonery? Like,
a little
they
bit.
could go a little bit further in, like, saying offensive stuff or being stupid because the central character was like more grounded or more
for sure. Some of that was in the script, some of that was the interpretation of Steve and Scoot, and we really liked it. Some of a lot of it, like, I mean, we left a lot on the cutting room floor. There's another 45 minutes of that movie.
Oh wow.
That most of it coming in the first act,
Yeah.
where we were like, oh, this is almost too serious now. It's almost too dramatic. We got to shorten it up. Like,
I've never seen a movie start like that movie.
yeah.
I almost had to be like, wait, did that just happen?
Yeah. Just like in media res, we're starting from the
Like, Jesus.
on top of action. Here we go. Yeah, and then when he drives away from the car and reveals what's on it, like, that's the kind of movie you're watching.
Yeah.
If you think this is funny, strap in. You're welcome. If you don't, it's not going. It's all downhill from here. But also some of that stuff, like, we had some backstory stuff for Agee's character, where he's a little sadder. Like, the terms of, like, you know, there's a lot of scenes with his son that are cut out, where it's you only really see him at the end.
Yeah.
But it's, you get to see him, like, where he's just a single father, and he's not dumb in a way that, but he's still a good person. He just he's just overwhelmed. He's in over his head. He doesn't know how to raise a 9-year-old son who's rebelling because he's getting no help. His mother is no good either. And so and Agee is another really underrated dramatic actor. So he had some great moments. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that, man. He takes after his mama."
He lets him drive at the end.
Yeah, lets him drive at the end. And then stuff with like Scoot, who is obviously an incredible dramatic actor. It's always fun to get dramatic actors to do comedic stuff. So it's like, all right, we got all the we got all the heart. Now we get you guys to fuck around and play around and stuff too. So, like, you know, that scene of him just like running a boiled peanut and ham sandwich stand in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my God.
How's business? A little slow.
Oh, that was.
And then Bob just looks down this abandoned
He's
highway,
on
a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, and he just goes, "All right," and then like sits down and pops a tall boy. He's like, "You want one?" "Shit, no, man. I'm working. Like, I'm on the clock.
I'm on
right
the
now."
clock.
Yeah.
Well, there's even a scene you go back to where he's at his house.
Yeah.
And he's actually making
He's making the boil. Yeah, he's a small business
sandwiches.
owner, man. He's an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. Focus on the manure.
That's the sort of details that makes characters stand out.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of that. Our production design guys did a hell of a job too, because again, the way my crazy ass brain works, it's like you go back and watch it, everything is down to the detail. It's like, let's build this world and then let's have the guys play around in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then find it. I mean, we shot that in a double wide trailer, and we shot every inch of it that we could. So finding a way to eventually, like, I mean, what we're sitting in right now
Was like your.
like, this was the size of the main room.
Wow.
To be honest, yeah. So we had to get real creative with it.
And this was your first film you directed after the one that you did in school? Or had there been another one?
No, my first feature is a movie called Killer View that I shot on disposable video camera. It's a horror movie. I think it's a comedy, but not everyone agrees with me. So I shot that on disposable video camera. Mandel was the DP on that. I called in all my favors. Spent a very low amount of movie. It's a serial killer that wants to retire, but doesn't want his life work to go unnoticed. So it's kind of a movie within a movie, where one is him being followed around by this journalism student and being interviewed, and the other movie that's inside of the movie is him kidnapping, raping, torturing, and murdering a husband and wife, and the husband's mistress. But as the movie progresses, you realize why. I don't want to give too much away, but you realize that it's very dark. It's very a Bill Hicks, Doug Stanhope kind of nihilist thing. Like, there are no good or redeeming people in that movie, in that story.
Even the victims?
No.
Yeah, the guy's cheating.
No, yeah, cheating, but all like it goes deeper than that. And I'm very proud. I wrote and directed that. I'm very proud of that movie. Hopefully people will get to see that sometime. It's been on the shelf forever. It is not anywhere where you can watch it currently.
It's not streamable anywhere?
You can go to it's called Killer View, and you can go to fabricationfilms.com. That's the company that bought it. And you can watch the trailer for sure. And then Mandel and Bob brought me on to do Angry White Man, and then Angry White Man, when Dr. God got brought on to do Bloodsucking Bastards, to be sort of the creative team to rewrite the script, play some of the secondary roles, help get some of our famous comedy people to come in and do the movie. And then like the last step was the producers going like, you guys are funny, you're great and all that. Like, but handing the director's chair over to O'Connell, that's a bigger step. And so I just gave them Angry White Man. They're like, it's hilarious, we love it, it's beautiful. And then I told them how much we actually made it for, and they were like, that did it. That's when the producer, light bulb went off, because they were like, oh, we thought you spent $2 million on it. I was like, not even close.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another gift, to go back to your original question of like, what do I bring to something as a director? I'm pride myself, and I am known for taking a certain amount of money and then putting something on screen that looks like we had a whole hell of a lot more money to go with. So,
and is that just a combination of like having the right network of people to come work, or like you can just like, all right, we can change this scene, or you're not like stuck on specific locations?
Yeah, there's two of it. I mean, one on the production side, you have to anything by hook or by crook. Like I made the first movie because I was watching all my friends make their movies, whether it be McBride and Jody Hill and those guys, or Craig Zobel making one of his movies, or any of the other guys that I went to school with. And then realized I didn't have any money, so I came up with a way to do these, disposable video cameras that they sold at CVS for $35 a pop. And then me and mostly Mandel, hacked them. And then when we made Angry White Man, we had a guy that was working in a recan house. That's when they take short ends of 35 millimeter that haven't been used on a production, and then they'll put them back in the cans. So instead of 400 feet or 1,000 feet, it'll be like 65 or 270, and then they'll sell them back to these film factories called like recan houses, because they've been recanned in the film canisters. So we were going to get a bunch of stuff from him, and then 6 weeks before we went into shooting, he called Mandel and was like, I got good news and bad news. He was like, bad news is I don't work at that recan house anymore. Good news is I work at he's like, I work for Fuji now in New York. When are you guys shooting? He was like, 6 weeks from now. He was like, dope. I've got all this film that's never left the factory.
Oh shit.
That's going to go bad in about 2 to 3 months. It's going to get the measles, where it's for those of you who don't know, in celluloid, especially in Fujifilm versus Kodak film, it gets old to a certain point. It starts breaking down, and then there'll be all these little red dots.
Oh.
On the front. You'll see that sometimes on like old movies, or movies that have been not really quite refurbished from the 70s and the 80s. And you're like, what's fucking wrong with that? That's what it is. It's called the measles. So what normally would be 75 to 76 cents a foot, we got from 17 cents a foot to 40 cents a foot. Like I shot 70,000 feet of 35 millimeter film. I had like a 12-to-1 ratio, which is ludicrous for an indie movie that short. And then
what is it's the amount of takes to scene time or screen time, or no?
Ratio? Yeah,
the ratio of
how many takes you took versus how which take ended up in the movie.
Yeah.
Roughly.
For every scene or
yeah,
something?
roughly. So yeah, having like, usually you're lucky on an independent film if you get a 5-to-1, probably closer to 3-to-1. So to have a 12-to-1 ratio where we could shoot, and had a couple of days of 2-camera where we could get close, especially during the songwriting contest, where we could shoot mediums and close-ups at the exact same time, so we weren't burning through daylight, constantly moving one camera around.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we got a second
camera.
We got a second camera for a couple of days, and we did the same thing on Bloodsucking Bastards. We shot on 18 days. I begged for 20, and some of the producers, who shall remain nameless, wanted to do it in 15. So I was like, all right, I'm lucky I got 18. But only 6 of those days did I get 2 cameras, and we were shooting Alexa, Arri Alexa, shooting digitally.
Were you able to shoot at all the same location, or was that a set?
That was a phone bank call center for one of those scam reverse mortgage kind of deals, where they basically trick little old ladies into selling their houses over to them. Mm-hmm. That was run by an Israeli national, and it was raided by the FBI. And he got a hat tip the day before that the FBI were coming, so he flew back to Israel and abandoned it. And so the people that owned the general building were friends with the producers. So that space down there, they're like, there was a lot of like cubicles and some like old phones and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, so we got the run of that space for nothing. And then there was like a garage section off the back of it, which is where we made the parking lot for the company and all that. And then upstairs was a company called Blue Tax, which is one of those companies that like, do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS? And like they'll pull it all into one thing, and now you owe them. Like,
and that's
so
where you had the bit like the boss's offices were up there.
no, that we
Or what location was that?
our production design built we built 2 offices, and ran power to them, all that, so they were functioning. And then we had the bullpen in the middle, and then off to the side, like every single piece of that movie, even the exterior, because we shot it on the street outside of that, even the lead actresses, lead female characters apartment, we shot in that space and just repainted and shot it in such a way. So production side, you have to find a way by hook or by crook and hustle it. But also on the creative side, a lot of like I have a film editing degree from School of the Arts, so that it makes it so I'm able to sort of see the whole movie in my head. But also, you know, the improv and sketch background, where it's like, yeah, we can make this, you know, prop work if we shoot it at the right angle. It'll be the right color. Like you can't really tell that a lot of the weapons are foam core near the end. Yeah. And then being able to sort of like, all right, we only have an hour left. And I'm like, I'm a big proponent of, you have an A shot list, then a B shot list, then a C, then a D. And then it's just like, what do we have to get out the door to make sure this cuts? And so since I'm able to improvise on the spot and I can re-edit the movie in my head in like 30 or 45 seconds, go, okay. So there was even one where Justin Ware from Dr. Guy was like, man, are you sure you only want to do this in like one angle? I'm like, trust me, when we're cutting back and forth between the big fight scene and then you and Joey just filming, like, it's going to be better that way. It's going to look, because we have all close-ups and quick cutting. So when we come back to this wonderful 2-shot of just the two of you guys juggling in real time, it's going to work. It's going to pop. It's going to work. And it did. So yeah, it's a combination of how creative can you be in pre-production, and how, you know, necessity being the mother of all invention, and then how quickly can you think on your feet and find something that can work better than what you wanted, even though what you're going to get is less than what you wanted, if that makes any sense. So yeah.
Huh.
So that's what I mean from before. Like if it's an independent feature, I definitely don't need anyone to hold my hand. Like I got this. I know how to do that kind of stuff.
Is there, like, what's the length of time? I mean, of course, depends on the story, but like, like I heard, you know, editing can take up to a year alone on projects. So
yeah,
like what's a timetable?
Well, it goes back to that fast, cheap, and good pick too, because that's all you're getting.
Yeah.
So my first movie, I shot that in 12 days. So the post-production took a lot longer. And again, my buddy Zine Baker was the editor on that. He's one of my best friends from college, but like he cut Thor Ragnarok. Like he's done okay for himself now. You know, Men in Black International. So he was editing that. He did the first pass. It was not very good. I admit that, but I fixed it in the editing. So once he got another job, I just basically, and he and his wife Tracy are saints for letting me do this. Like I basically lived at their apartment for a month and a half, editing either during the day if Zine had to be in the booth, or if Zine was at home working and editing, I would edit when he got done. So I'd go throughout the night, and they let me basically just sleep on their couch and just live and eat and breathe in it. For Angry White Man, we knew it was going to be good and cheap, which means it wasn't going to be fast. We put it all in the can. Mandel did a lot of the assistant editor work himself, so we didn't have to pay anyone to sync up dailies or choose best takes and all that kind of stuff. So our assembly edit came together. We had 3 different editors on that, but it took a long time. And then Charlie Dugan and Bob came out here and lived with me for like 6 weeks, and we would just go over to Charlie Dugan's, another School of the Arts guy who's an editor, and go to his place and sort of just walk through it while he was working on that for us, while at night he was working editing Cake Wars for that. And then Bloodsucking Bastards, we really felt like early on, because the Fortress Features guys are really known for like being able to turn a project around very quickly, and all credits due to that. They're very, very good at that. So that was probably the quickest I've ever worked on anything. We wrapped on January 21st of 2014, and then like January 15th or 17th, we were premiering at Slamdance, whatever it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So from like, and then the script we had done pretty quickly together as well. Cause again, Dr. God, we worked together very quickly. But yeah, we were constantly hustling it. Everyone called in all their favors. I worked with a great color correction guy, but I worked in what his own setup that he had set up at his house. It was basically in a fucking shed. And then when we did our sound mix, it was after hours at lower cut rates, with guys that they had worked with before who were great guys, but they were doing it as favors, at very reduced rates.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, pushing. And I think once we got, and then Andrew Coates, who cut it, is a great editor. Once we started sending in, and again, because I'm an editor, so like, and I work really well with, my script supervisor and circling takes and all that. So my assembly edit is it's
pre-selected a little bit.
Yeah, my assembly cuts are probably closer to most people's fine cuts to begin with, because I've already made my choices. I know what I like and all that. I've seen it, and also I have a very good memory, so that when it comes time, you're like, oh, it'd be great if we just had a close up here. I'm like, take 4. She holds on a little bit longer and she does this thing where she looks over her shoulder, and that's going to work perfectly. Give me 6 more frames of that. Right. So once we sent our first cut, and all the producers from Fortress Features and maybe This Year Productions and the rest of the guys in Dr. God, once we kind of knew that we had something, and we even knew that while we're shooting it, especially like Joey and Fran and Pedro, who had been working for a long time, and Joel, all of them figured out very quickly, like, this we've worked on a lot of small independent comedies. This is much, much better than those. So then the push was on to get it ready for
Slamdance,
for submissions. And then
submissions.
when Slamdance said, we love it, we wanted to make it the opening night premiere, can you guys be done in time? We said, fuck yeah. And then we just went and made it happen. So those are the sort of the realities. If you have something very, very good, people will work to make it happen faster. But yeah, it's usually good, fast, and cheap. Pick 2, because that's all you're going to get.
Good, fast, and cheap.
Good, fast, and cheap. That's something from the corporate world. Pick 2. That's all you're going to get. And in the movie business, they try and
only do one.
they try and get all 3. What ends up, they want something good and they want it fast and they want it cheap, and then it ends up not being good, and so they delay it. They push back the release date. They do reshoots. They pay more money, but now, and maybe they fire the director. Maybe they kick the director out of the editing room and the producers, and then the studios get involved. And the next thing you know, you have a movie that's very expensive, is not very good, and took way longer for it to come to the market than it should have, than they had planned on. And now you're adding wasted, P&A, prints and advertising on top of that. When a movie is supposed to come out in summer of 2000, they've already 2020. And then or summer 2018, and you're starting to see trailers for it. You're starting to see posters for it at ArcLight. That's real money. They're paying people to do those things and make that. And then when it gets moved to March of 2019, that means not good stuff. That means more money is being spent, and the money they spent to try and get you excited to see it in the summer of 2018, that money is just lit on fire now, because that's maybe not going to be what the movie is anymore. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you take the Mummy. I like the Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy. I think it's really good. I was excited to see the Universal Dark. Like, they were trying to answer the Marvel comic universe with, Universal Dark Universe. It was the cover of Vanity Fair. They had cast Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man. They had Tom Cruise as the guy from the Mummy. They were going to make the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Invisible Man, reboot Frankenstein, the Wolfman. I think who played Anton Chigurh in the
Javier Bardem.
Yeah, Javier Bardem. They had the Vanity Fair cover of all 6 of those dudes of who was going to play who. You've only seen the Mummy. Where are the rest of those movies?
What happened?
Don't know. Probably because it didn't make enough money. I think Universal ended up just scrapping the whole plan.
Wow.
Yeah,
But it's a good words. It's a good movie.
I like it.
Okay.
I mean, I think if it can be said, like, if it's not crazy,
You
I,
can say that.
if you can say it. Well, I mean, what I was getting ready to say is like, I think Tom Cruise is still super underrated in a weird way. I think there a lot of the complaints was like, oh, it wasn't a mummy movie, it wasn't a real horror movie. It ended up being a Tom Cruise action movie. I'm like, yeah, and Tom Cruise action movies are
Pretty
fucking
good.
dope. They
Yeah.
are great.
Edge of Tomorrow is one of my favorite movies.
Oh
of his.
hell yeah! They should have called it "Live, Kill, Repeat," like "Live, Die, Repeat." That was a movie that was ruined by the advertising, ruined by the marketing department. Watch me never work for that studio now because of this podcast.
We can edit this part out.
Yeah, but if you think of so many, like, oh man, that new Top Gun trailer looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, think of the handful of dudes
That can do that.
alive that can pull that off, where you wouldn't mock them. That wouldn't be an SNL sketch.
Yeah.
And now Top Gun 2 Maverick, right? Like, and it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks real good. Yeah.
Oh man. That's yeah. I mean, it seems like I'm trying to formulate this question
Mm-hmm.
for you. How do people know what you know? How do people do that? Is there a Brian James O'Connell
Oh man.
film school program? Because you have to familiarize yourself with so many
Mm-hmm.
movies. And I watched the original Manchurian Candidate.
Oh,
and
if you don't like Frank Sinatra, a kung fu fighting, we
So,
can't be friends.
can we talk
We can't
about
be friends. That movie is the tits. That 360 degree shot? Get out of town.
So it was very strange. It was the strangest kung fu sequence I've ever, like martial arts sequence
Oh,
I've
yeah.
ever seen. Mainly
Oh,
because it seemed like every time they would cut to someone else's doing a move, they were starting from stopped.
Yeah.
So it was like,
It looked
and
like
then they would do it. The other guy'd be like,
it looked like a sparring session
yes.
from the karate Olympics in 1964. Like, like how you watch old wrestling, old professional wrestling from like the 50s and 60s. You're like, God, what were they fucking moving through molasses? Yeah, Jackie Chan, it is not. But everyone is at the top of their game in that movie. Janet Leigh, who is in there almost not at all top of her game.
If she plays the daughter to the senator.
No, Janet Leigh from of Psycho fame and Jamie Lee Curtis's
gotcha.
mother. She's the woman that meets him on the train. We are never really sure if
Is
she's
she an agent? It seemed
That's
like
right.
she
You're
was-
never sure if is she a handler or is she just a woman that is obsessed with this broken man and thinks that she can fix him.
It seemed like she was talking to him in a way that
Oh, yeah.
was.
Yeah. And then of course Angela Lansbury, who I ride and die with every day of my life. That monologue.
Is that the mother?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They will pay for what they did to you, Raymond.
Oh yeah, we'll
I
crush
will
them.
pay. I will crush them for ever crossing me in the first place. And
Yeah.
and that weird like incestuous relationship that they have, and even that guy like that doesn't like who plays the lead who doesn't get a
Shaw.
lot. Yeah, who plays Shaw and just like we were so damn lovable. Can you believe it? Me, lovable. It's
I know that scene
So
where he
good.
goes, "I made a joke.
yeah.
I made a joke about Groucho Marx.
Yeah.
me, Groucho Marx. Okay, buddy.
And I saw that movie in film school. That was when it was still. That's when it still was banned because not too shortly after that is when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and Frank Sinatra and him. He obviously were very close, and he was devastated by it. And there's a lot of things in the Manchurian Candidate movie that have similar.
Really, I didn't realize it was banned from, or it got taken out of circulation.
Frank Sinatra was one of the producers on it and had control of the rights on it, and he pulled it. He basically shelved the movie for like
Wow.
25, 30 years because he felt weirdly like responsible, like, God forbid, and just kind of being heartbroken about it. It's the same reason why, Brian Henson kept Meet the Feebles out of this country for, probably 30 years because his father passed away. It's one of Peter Jackson's early movies where it's like basically the Muppet Show, but with like drugs and sex.
Oh, I'd
and
never
all that.
seen that.
Yeah, again, because it's real.
Dark.
I mean, yeah, and also real hard to find. Like, I think it's probably easy to find now, but like, I saw it in school. Someone had a laser disc with like from Japan. It had like Japanese subtitles, and that's how we watched it. Yeah, like the Miss Piggy character is a hippopotamus with like an M60. Kermit is the Kermit character is a Vietnam veteran who's addicted to heroin, and his rat is Rizzo the rat is his agent, but also his drug dealer. There's
Wow.
flashbacks to Vietnam, like it's the Deer Hunter.
That sounds epic.
Yeah, so Manchurian Candidate is fantastic. As far as a BOC film school, I guess like have my broken brain. First of all, like
So how do you do that?
I don't know, like well, I mean, when I went to film school at first, I didn't like. It was big in my family. It was like you got to go to college. You have to go to college. There's no excuse. You are going to a 4-year school. We don't care what you do with it, but you're doing it. And then so kind of looking around the time, I got the perfect storm of I was like, well, I'm a musician, but I also like to write, and I also like to draw and paint and stuff. And the School of the Arts had been around since like the 60s, but the film program had just started. So it was in state, which meant it would be cheaper for my parents, which was great. But also it was right down the street because I'm from High Point and it's in Winston-Salem, which is like a 10 to 15 minute drive down, 311. And I got there and it was just, and I got lucky that because when I first got there, we were working out of like an abandoned diaper factory.
Right, I remember you saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But also like it was kind of scary at first. Like I thought I had made a huge mistake because a lot of those guys were people like my boy Nick Coviello. He does the TMI Hollywood show over at Second City. It's kind of like a Top Story Weekly type of show. But he was like one of those dudes that saw like E.T. when he was 4 and knew he wanted to be a filmmaker his entire life. And you had guys there like that had been making films, that knew how to do 16 millimeter. Guys that like I had one guy in my class that owned a video toaster, which is like one of the first early on. Like it was After Effects before After Effects. Like it was super expensive for you to have a video toaster machine so you could do fire effects or that kind of thing. It's like you're talking like $5-6 grand on that. And I was like, am I in the wrong place? Have I fucked up? And it was only after I realized, like after being there for a while, I was like, oh no, my film school was like I went to a film school before this film school, which is what you hear from everybody else. Paul Thomas Anderson talks about it. Kevin Smith talks about it, that their film school was watching a shit ton of Laserdiscs and VHSs and watching the behind the scenes documentary, listening to the director's commentary of how they did things and just watching it over and over again and learning how movies work. Like I initially went to film school with the idea because I like to act. I was like, well, if I want to be in movies, I should probably learn how to make movies. And then realized I was like, no, I've been doing this forever. I like, in junior high and high school, they're like, all right, you can write a written book report or you can make a video. I'm like, I'll fucking make a video. That sounds way better than writing a 9-page paper. And I've been doing that for a while. And then my parents got me a camera in 93 because I applied to school and I got in. I started making little documentaries all around. But like, yeah, watching those old movies, that's where like the video store now has been replaced with like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. There are a ton of great old movies and also a ton of really shitty movies available at your fingertips, especially on YouTube, where you can go and watch things. So, you can watch a bunch of different stuff, but also you can watch, Clint Eastwood in Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, watch those movies. I've learned way more of what not to do from watching bad movies than good movies. Yeah, so anything from like Tracks with Shadoe Stevens, China O'Brien 2, Deathlock with Rutger Hauer, God rest his soul, R.I.P. Any of those, the Ice Pirates, if you can watch as many movies as you can that were clearly movies that were made in the wake of success of another movie. Like when Pulp Fiction came out, and for like 2 to 3 years, everyone was just like, whether it's 2 Days in the Valley or Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, both of which are good movies on their own, but everyone was trying to make Tarantino movies. It's the same thing when Star Wars came out, and then everyone was trying to make their sci-fi and fantasy stuff. So watch Ice Pirates, watch Krull, find the cool stuff. But then again, there's all, you can go on YouTube and there's hundreds, if not hundreds, of free shit to learn how to like, if you don't mind listening to a guy like drone into a microphone, here's how you use this free editing software. So if you want to do like that, I mean, it's all free.
Yeah.
You can learn how to do that stuff. Even now when I edit, it's rare that I'll go and use Adobe Premiere. Like I'll use one of these 2 or 3 free editing softwares, especially if I'm just doing straight cuts and stuff. I do like, what do you use to cut together these podcasts? I use Audacity.
I use Premiere.
Yeah, it's like if you need something to be super, but like learn on that stuff first. Watch a bunch of bad movies. Watch a bunch of badly recorded but very informational YouTube video, how-to videos, and then make shit. Even if it's just, I mean, like, what's his name? He was Topher Grace. Topher Grace has it's not even a side project, it's a hobby. He'll take movies and recut them and make them smaller and sharper. My buddy Pete Fedak did that once. He took all 3, I think Topher Grace did that too, where he took all 3 of the Star Wars prequels, like, and cut out all of Jar Jar Binks. And then, like, you can do that too. Take stuff that's already been pre-made, take trailers and try and figure out like why things go together and why they don't look together. And then library cards are free. I get, especially because I went to film school, 2 centuries ago. Every book that I bought in film school is very free at the library. Library cards are free. You can check out directing actors. You can check out, the art of producing, all that kind of stuff.
Any other books you'd recommend?
Number 1 is In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch.
Oh yes, I have that. I'm reading it right now.
Walter Murch is great. Yeah, and also that was based off of a bunch of like Q&As and interviews that he did at like UCLA. So it's not like reading stereo instructions. It's very relatable. It's very, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like it's just it feels conversational. So it doesn't feel like there's no, you won't feel stupid reading it. So there won't be any gatekeeping going on unintentional gatekeeping where it's like, I can't process any of the math or the technical speak of this. It's like, no, he's just talking about this is how it works. Any book, Masters of Light is another good one too, where it's just every chapter is them interviewing a different insanely good Hall of Fame Academy Award winning DP, and then just them talking about their process, the way that they work with light, like as soon as you learn like 3 camera lighting, I mean, you can put something on movie, like it'll look good. Like don't have more than one shadow. There you go.
That's
right?
yeah,
because that's not how light works. Like just simple stuff like, all right, if you're lighting a guy in his apartment, what's the light source? Where are we supposed to think in the movie this light is coming from? Oh, it's coming from that lamp? Great. Especially if that lamp is on screen, don't have a giant lamp, don't have a giant light
coming from the other side.
Coming from the other side that's 5 times as hot. And simple stuff that like you don't want to make, like we laugh because we're like, oh yeah, we learned that the hard way. But yeah, do that on your own for free and learn from your own mistakes so that you won't be making mistakes with someone else's money, so to speak. Yep. And then just have my insane brain that remembers everything. It's a blessing and a curse. I just got my most recent I just switched agents. I got a new commercial agent, and she's nice. Great. I'm looking at her picture. I'm like, I know you are like that. And we sit down. She was like, oh, so you did a bunch of Iowa West because such and such, Jim Shipley. I'm with him. I'm like, yeah, I know Jim and I know Shane Harline. She was like, well, if you did Iowa West, you probably know a bunch of people. I was like, who? She was like, oh, well, Shauna Callaghan. I was like, I'm on Dr. God. And she's like, whoa. I was like, in fairness to you, I didn't have a beard and I didn't have glasses back then. Yes, 4 years ago, you came to our show at Iowa West. You saw the Dr. God revival. You said, I want to represent all of you. And you had one hand on the door for 20 minutes while you're standing talking to me and Neil in the bar because you were about to leave, but we just were getting along like gangbusters, and that was 4 years ago. She was like, oh. I was like, I have a very good memory.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just crazy shit like that. Yeah, so all that's like Johnny Number 5, the robot from Short Circuit. Need input. All that stuff comes in, and I remember
It's locked
crazy
away.
stuff. Yeah, and then when I found improv where it sort of encourages that type of behavior and that sort of reference, like I think Will McLaughlin said, like, I walk around all day with the most useless submarine jargon just on the off chance in one scene, one day, we might be doing a scene in a submarine and I'll have to play the captain. And now I know it all.
What?
Now I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, you're a fucking psychopath like I am. 100%. Yeah, I'm a big proponent. Chris Thompson was just talking about this the other day online, like, memorize a ton of famous monologues from movies because you never know when you're going to be in a scene playing an android and then someone kills you and you have to give the tears in the rain speech. Never know.
All right. Well, I got to go memorize some monologues.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan James O'Connell.
Thank you. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, you've answered all my questions I've had.
Excellent.
And
I hope the sequel wasn't too self-indulgent.
No, it was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
All right.